Imagine this. You wake up one morning feeling an inexplicable weight pressing on your chest, not the kind that comes from exhaustion, but something deeper, more ancient. It's the sensation of an unseen force steering your actions, whispering doubts into your mind, shaping your desires in ways you don't fully understand. You go about your day as usual, putting on a face that the world expects, calm, composed, in control. But beneath the surface, there is something else. A side of you that you keep hidden. A version of yourself you rarely acknowledge, let alone embrace. The part of you that carries your insecurities, your anger, your deepest fears. The part of you that has been repressed for so long that it has taken on a life of its own. What if this hidden side, the part of you you've been taught to suppress, isn't actually your enemy, but the key to understanding who you really are? Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, called this the shadow, the unacknowledged aspects of the self that lurk in the unconscious. And yet, Jesus, the greatest psychologist of all, hinted at this reality long before modern psychology. The lamp of the body is the eye. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. Matthew 6 verses 22 to 23. Could it be that what we refuse to see within ourselves is what keeps us from the light? But here's the paradox. We spend our lives running from our shadow, fearing what it might reveal. And yet, buried within its depths is something extraordinary, something that can transform our entire existence. So, the question is this. If you were to stop running, stop repressing, and instead turn to face your shadow, what would you discover? We are taught from an early age to present only the most acceptable version of ourselves to the world. Be kind, be polite, be disciplined. Suppress your anger, hide your envy, don't let them see your fear. Society rewards the well-mannered, the self-controlled, the ones who seem to have everything figured out. But what happens to everything we suppress? Does it simply disappear? No, it sinks into the depths of our unconscious, forming what Carl Jung called the shadow self, the collection of traits, desires, and emotions that we reject because we believe they are unworthy, shameful, or dangerous. And yet, the more we repress these parts of ourselves, the more they control us from beneath the surface. Have you ever felt a sudden burst of rage and wondered where it came from? Or found yourself acting in ways that contradict your values, as if something inside you took over? This is the shadow at work, unseen, unacknowledged, yet always present. Jesus understood this truth profoundly. He saw through the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, those who appeared righteous on the outside but harbored corruption within. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. Matthew 23 verse 27. His words cut through the illusion. It is not the external image that matters, but what lies within. Philosophers and psychologists alike have echoed this warning. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, the repressed instincts that drive us, often without our awareness. Freud described the ID, the chaotic, primal force within us that civilization tries to tame. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist, wrote that our suffering holds the potential for deep meaning, if we dare to confront it. But here is where the problem deepens. The more we deny our shadow, the more it manifests in destructive ways. We project it onto others, condemning in them what we refuse to see in ourselves. We sabotage our relationships, our ambitions, our sense of peace, without ever realizing that we are at war with our own reflection. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So, the real question is this. What if the darkness you fear inside yourself is not your enemy, but the very thing pointing you toward your true purpose? What if, instead of rejecting your shadow, you learn to listen to it? The implications are profound, and in the next section, we will see just how much power the shadow holds over our lives, whether we acknowledge it or not. Imagine a man who prides himself on being kind, generous, and selfless. He gives freely to others, never asks for anything in return, and avoids conflict at all costs. He tells himself that he is a good person, but deep down he is exhausted. Resentment grows in the corners of his mind. He starts to feel invisible, unappreciated. And one day, Without warning, he explodes in anger at his spouse, at his children, at the stranger who cuts him off in traffic. Where did this rage come from? It was there all along, buried beneath his carefully crafted identity. His shadow, the part of him that felt unworthy, that wanted recognition, that longed to say no, had been denied for too long. And now, it had broken through, uncontrolled and destructive. This is the cost of ignoring the shadow. We like to believe that we are rational beings, in control of our actions. But the reality is that much of what we do is driven by unconscious forces. The unexamined parts of ourselves leak into our lives in ways we do not expect. Think about how often people sabotage themselves without realizing it. The person who procrastinates on their dream because deep down, they fear success. The lover who pushes away intimacy because they carry an unspoken belief that they are unworthy of love. The ambitious professional who cannot stop working, not because they love their job, but because they are running from an old wound, perhaps a childhood of feeling insignificant. Jesus, the greatest psychologist of all, understood this better than anyone. He did not simply address people's actions. He went straight to the heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of, Luke 6 verse 45. He knew that what remains unhealed within us will eventually surface, whether in words, actions, or consequences. And society itself is built on this denial. Look around. We are surrounded by distractions, designed to keep us from facing what lies within. Social media, endless entertainment, consumer culture. These are not just conveniences. They are tools of avoidance. They keep us from sitting alone in silence and asking, who am I really? What have I buried? But the shadow does not go away simply because we ignore it. It finds other ways to be seen. In crime, we see the consequences of repressed rage. In addiction, the unbearable weight of unprocessed pain. In anxiety and depression, the crushing effects of unresolved fears and unmet desires. Even at the level of nations, history is filled with wars fought in the name of righteousness. Wars that were, in truth, projections of the very darkness those nations refused to acknowledge within themselves. But what if your shadow was not a curse, but a map? What if the parts of you that frighten you the most are not your enemies, but your guides? The very thing you fear looking at may hold the key to your greatest purpose. And in the next section, we will explore exactly how to break free, how to stop running from your shadow, and instead, begin the process of integration. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark forest, knowing that somewhere beyond the tangled branches lies a treasure, the purpose of your life. But there's a problem. The only way forward is through the shadows, through the creatures lurking in the dark, through the fear that grips your throat like a vice. Most people turn back. They retreat into the comfort of the familiar, pretending the forest isn't there. But you, if you've made it this far, you are beginning to understand something profound. The only way out is through. For centuries, spiritual traditions, psychology, and philosophy have all pointed to the same truth. Wholeness is not found in escaping darkness, but in integrating it. Jesus made this clear when he said, "Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it." Matthew 16 verse 25. He was not simply speaking of physical life. He was speaking of the false self, the carefully constructed identity we cling to, the one that hides our wounds and our fears. The moment we stop running, the moment we are willing to lose the self we thought we had to be, we begin to uncover who we truly are. Carl Jung called this process shadow integration. He warned that suppressing our dark side does not eliminate it. It only forces it to grow in the unconscious, waiting for the moment it will take control. But by confronting our shadow, by recognizing and embracing our hidden aspects, we can transform them from enemies into allies. But how do we do this? 1. Radical self-honesty, the first act of rebellion. The greatest deception we play on ourselves is the belief that we are good people. Not because goodness is bad, but because this belief blinds us to our contradictions, our hidden motives, our suppressed desires. Real self-awareness requires a brutal kind of honesty. What am I hiding from myself? Where am I lying? To others, to myself? What emotions do I avoid because they make me uncomfortable? This is not about judgment. It is about clarity. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. The purpose of shadow work is not to indulge in darkness, but to understand it, to bring light into it, so that it no longer controls you from the shadows. 2. Confronting the inner beast, meeting the unseen parts of yourself. There is a reason people avoid looking inward. The moment you do, you will find things that terrify you. Rage you never admitted to. Pain you never allowed yourself to feel. Jealousy, insecurity, regret. But here is the paradox. The moment you stop resisting these feelings, they lose their power over you. Instead of repressing your anger, ask, why is this here? What is this anger trying to tell me? Instead of ignoring your sadness, sit with it. Let it speak. What part of you is grieving? What has been lost? The goal is not to act on these emotions blindly, but to listen to them. To recognize that they are signals, not of failure, but of something that needs your attention. 3. Rewriting the narrative. Transforming darkness into purpose. Once you have faced your shadow, something incredible happens. You begin to see that your struggles were never random. Your deepest wounds are directly connected to your highest calling. The child who grew up feeling invisible often becomes the speaker who gives a voice to others. The one who suffered betrayal learns to guide others toward true trust. The one who carried silent rage transforms into the protector of the weak. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, discovered this truth in the depths of suffering. He wrote, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning." This is the final step in shadow work. Not just accepting your darkness, but using it. Ask yourself, what is my pain trying to teach me? What have I learned that others need to hear? Your suffering was not pointless. Your fears, your wounds, your battles, they were all leading you somewhere. And if you have the courage to keep going, to keep walking through the dark forest, you will find something on the other side that most people never do. A life of true purpose. But there is one final realization, the deepest, most powerful truth of all. And in the next section, we will uncover it. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you feared, everything you ran from, everything you thought disqualified you from purpose, was actually pointing you toward it. That the shame you carried was never meant to break you, but to teach you compassion. That the anger you suppressed was not a flaw, but a fire meant to forge your strength. That the loneliness you resented was shaping you into someone who could guide others out of their own isolation. For so long, you believed you had to fix yourself before you could find your purpose. But now, standing at the edge of this revelation, you see the truth. You were never broken. You were only incomplete. Jesus, the greatest psychologist of all, said something radical. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Matthew 21 verse 42. The very thing you once thought made you unworthy, the wounds, the struggles, the failures, was the very thing meant to be the foundation of your purpose. The parts of yourself you rejected were never your enemies. They were your missing pieces. 1. The death of the false self. From the moment we are born, society teaches us who we are supposed to be. Be good. Be successful. Be likable. Be strong. But this mask, the false self, is fragile. It cannot hold the full weight of who we are. And so, life eventually forces a confrontation, a crisis, a breakdown, something that shakes us so deeply that the false self begins to crack. In that moment, you have two choices. Try to glue the mask back together and keep pretending. Let it fall away and step into who you were truly meant to be. Carl Jung described this as individuation, the process of becoming whole, of integrating every part of yourself, even the parts you once feared. Jesus described it as dying to yourself so that you may truly live. It is painful. It feels like loss, but it is the only path to freedom. 2. The true meaning of purpose. We have been conditioned to believe that purpose is something external, a career, a title, an achievement. But these things are byproducts of purpose, not its source. True purpose is not something you find. It is something you become. It is not a job. It is not a destination. It is the alignment of your entire being, your mind, your heart, your wounds, your strengths, into something that serves the world in a way only you can. Viktor Frankl, after surviving the horrors of Auschwitz, wrote, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Even in suffering, even in the darkest moments, purpose exists, not in avoiding pain, but in transforming it into something meaningful. 3. The final realization. You are the answer you've been searching for. The final, most powerful truth is this: everything you have been searching for, clarity, meaning, fulfillment, has been within you all along. You did not need to become someone else. You did not need to erase your past. You only needed to embrace it. The shadow you once feared was never darkness. It was potential, untapped, unexplored, waiting for you to claim it. This is why Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." Luke 17 verse 21. Because purpose is not out there, waiting to be discovered. It is already inside you, waiting to be unlocked. And now, the choice is yours. Will you continue running from the parts of yourself that hold the key to your destiny? Or will you stand, turn around, and finally embrace them? The path forward has always been in your hands. The only question left is, are you ready to walk it?
Thanks for tuning in to Sparktopus Think. The journey doesn't stop here. Join us next time as we keep exploring, one episode at a time. Don't conform to the patterns of this world. Instead, renew your mind and be transformed. Subscribing is simple. Hit that button so you never miss an episode. Drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and spread the word with your friends and family. At Sparktopus Think, we're all about sparking meaningful conversations, challenging perspectives, and aligning with God's truth. Until next time, keep thinking, keep growing, and keep transforming.